in any way that I can, as long as I've been alive. And using whatever talents I could muster. And this story features one of my first times on stage, performing in front of people. So if you'll indulge me, or even if you won't, it's my show and you're not really getting a choice. I now present to you the first ever live reading of my personal Christmas story, Silver Bells from Hell. Sure how I got myself into it. Most of my stories could start that way, and this is certainly no exception. There I was at the final night of Christmas choir practice, sitting next to Leslie, my current 5th grade crush. Why I decided to join the Christmas choir is beyond me to this day. I didn't have a particular interest in singing at the time, or a particularly good singing voice, and I had no way of knowing that it would eventually land me in a church pew next to my present object of affection. In fact, the whole recruiting process remains fuzzy to me, and if I didn't know better, I would blame some sort of conspiracy. Nonetheless, I was to be one of the choir who sang at Mass on Christmas Eve. I think I even remember making the cut, but there were children who didn't get the honor, and somehow I had bested them. If so, it only sweetens the irony. Leslie was a 7th grader, and the epitome of the worldly woman. She had dared to wear makeup to choir practice, something strictly verboten during school hours, yet tolerated by our choir instructor. She was a vision in white faux angora and pink lip gloss. Needless to say, I was quite smitten. For some time during those after-school choir meetings, I had been thinking of engaging in a little small talk. I had noticed the ABBA button on her macrame purse at a previous practice, so I thought that would be a good icebreaker. So how about that ABBA? Those nutty sweets sure can bell out of tune, huh? Or did you catch Saturday Night Live last week? I'm not old enough to stay up that late, but I hear those codeheads are a real hoot. But alas, it would have been fruitless. Leslie seemed to have a permanent blind spot in her visual range that always seemed to land where I was sitting. Yes, that's a poetic way of saying that she had no idea that I was alive. It didn't seem like she would be making that discovery anytime soon. But then, what 7th grader goes around noticing 5th graders anyway? As coincidence would have it, I also happened to volunteer for a part in our Christmas pageant in the way that children who go to a Catholic school volunteer for things that no one wants to do. My tie was probably crooked that day, so one of the sisters decided that I was going to be a part of our Silver Bells presentation. Each grade had their own performance that they put on. Our presentation was a quaint little downtown scene, complete with buildings, streetlights, reindeer, a Christmas tree, and a traffic light. As is tradition in pageants such as these, children were assigned the roles of inanimate objects with little beaming faces poking out of them. Through some arcane method, no doubt based on a formula of height, stamina, and income level, the nuns chose which children would play which objects. I got to be a lamppost. A lamppost. The insult to this particular injury was that we had to make these props on our own, out of corrugated cardboard and poster paper. Lewis, a child from a particularly wealthy family, got to be the traffic light. In a vital 5th grade lesson, I learned the importance of privilege. Instead of a cardboard cutout, Lewis had a working miniature traffic light constructed, doubtlessly by one of his maids or butlers or something, my 10-year-old mind fumed. He stood behind it, flipping its little switch incessantly during each practice, but still looking much less of a fool than the rest of us. The luckier and more attractive children got to play the yuppies who walked through the scene, loaded with packages, talking and laughing and trying not to look at their friends who were trapped in tiny cardboard purgatories of their own design. I probably sound bitter, don't I? Well, that's because you haven't heard the whole story. On the night of the pageant, which was a few days before Christmas Eve, we gathered in our classroom and got ready for the evening's performance. A group of 8th grade girls were directing the activities and were telling us to smile and look into the crowd and so on. One girl thought it would be cute if some of us painted our faces in a futile attempt to help us embody our roles, to be the lamp, so to speak. Without a moment's hesitation, she pulled out a jar of yellow paint and began to go to work on my face. All right, I said, as if I had a choice in the matter, but just paint my nose. One thing led to another, and before I knew it, my face was covered with yellow paint from ear to ear. Another life lesson learned. No one ever listens to me. Sighing, I donned my cardboard lamppost and shuffled off to the cafeteria. As they say, the show must go on. The fourth graders did the night before Christmas. The child who played Santa lost his belly stuffing halfway through the performance and had the audience in stitches. It was a tough act to follow, but follow he did. The yuppies walked and laughed. Lewis flipped that damn switch about 1,000 times, and we all sang Silver Bells, except for me. I could feel my face cracking whenever I moved it. I remained perfectly still, held my little cardboard gas lamp, and tried to look like none of this was my idea at all. After the pageant, I retired to the boys' room to try to wash the paint off of my face. The paint, however, had other plans for the evening. It was poster paint, not face paint. The most I could do was crack it and peel it off of my already red face. Tiny welts appeared beneath every flake that I pulled off. Pressed for time, I halted the process to bolt to the church for choir practice, my cheeks still covered with flakes of poster paint, the color of French's mustard. It was all quickly forgotten when I took my usual place next to Leslie. You remember Leslie? Today was different, however. Leslie noticed me. She turned, looked at me as if I was a real, living, breathing human being. I was thrilled. The evening was going to turn out all right after all. All of this time sitting next to her at choir practice, and finally she noticed me. And in that magical moment, full of all the stuff Christmas is all about, she spoke the first and last words that she would ever speak to me. Do you have some kind of skin condition or something? Merry Christmas, Leslie, wherever you are. Please keep your kids out of the poster paint. That's the story as it was written, but just as an addendum to give it a happy ending. This story happened in 1977. And we all know what else came out in 1977, don't we?
Star Wars.
Star Wars. And that means that just a few days later, I got to go open presents underneath the Christmas tree with all of the classic Star Wars. I got the TIE Fighter, I got the X-Wing, I got the Land Speeder, I got R2-D2. So there's still a happy ending to this story.